Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We're back with another story of the week, and this is an Am I the Asshole? A classic on our channel. So this is from a day ago, and it is titled, Am I the Asshole for Not Telling My Roommates I Am the Landlord?
Okay.
So it goes, I, female 28, got a job when I was 17 and lived at home, saving as much as I could until I was 26, at which point I bought a small apartment for myself with a small mortgage that I could afford whether I rented out or not. It has 2 rooms. One is bigger with an ensuite, and the other is a single. I didn't want to live alone for safety reasons, so I posted about getting a roommate, them having the ensuite. I got lots of messages, but when people found out I was the landlord, they usually left the conversations. I was very upfront that I wanted a clean, tidy, organized, quiet, non-smoking people, and that my sister said that was probably sending a toxic message since I was also the landlord. So I stopped mentioning that, and very shortly after, I found people. They were a really nice engaged couple, female 29, male 28. And though I wouldn't say we are close best friends, we were friendly and had dinner together sometimes, and the living situation had been quite nice. The rent was on the cheaper side of average in our area. We split bills, streaming, and internet, etc., because they did not know I was the landlord. I will fully admit I can be strict. I hate things being messy, disorganized, loud, and especially since I am the owner, I want things sorted quickly to avoid damages. So a few times I have scheduled checks to get things rolling if they're being pushed aside and mentioned that I might have to complain if things weren't tidied up properly. Recently, the girl had some health issues and has been working less, which means that they have been struggling on rent payments. Again, I don't need their money to pay off the mortgage, but have been using it to help me save extra money. I decided to come clean and mention that I would cut the rent payments fully until she got better and found stable work again. They were nice about it and took the deal until she got better and then moved out last month, and I went on search for new roommates. They started trashing me to everyone they knew about how I lied about being the landlord, was a strict pain in the ass bitch, was trying to steal their money in a cost living crisis to pay off my debts, etc. Word had gotten around, and I've actually stopped taking inquiries. Some of my friends and family members are saying that I was the asshole and should have been honest about it from the get-go. Others are saying I didn't owe them that information and I ended up doing them a favor. I don't really know what to believe. Was I the asshole?
I feel like everybody's right in the situation. Like, she should have been honest, and also she doesn't owe those people that information, I guess. Honesty is always the best policy. Anyone's gonna feel mad when they feel like they've been lied to, but I don't think she had to. I mean, you don't have to tell people that you're the landlord, nor do I think that
I was gonna
really
say, is it
matters.
illegal to not know? I don't know. I just have questions like, how is she doing checks and they don't know it's her? How these people get their keys?
That's
They
the part
never
that I
had.
could understand them being upset about, because it sounds like she went to great lengths to conceal that she was not the landlord. And that's what's weird to me. And that's what I think people would be suspicious about and try to figure out why she would be so sneaky in that way. It's one thing to just not advertise that you're the landlord. And if they find out that they're paying you instead of whatever, then that's fine. But it seems like she even said to the girl one time, I'm going to have to complain to the landlord if you're not cleaning up or whatever. So that's going to an extra length to make sure that they know that it's not you. So that's weird to me. This is weird.
I feel like that's also a little bit of a betrayal of trust because you're living with
Yeah,
this girl, right?
anytime you lie, you have to deal with the wrath of lying, even if you lied with good intent or to protect someone else or protect yourself or whatever. You're not telling the truth. People are always going to be upset about that.
Yeah, like she might kind of be the asshole to me because, to be honest, these people were living with her and they could have been trash talking the landlord in front of her. Like how
Like,
awkward. You put them in a really awkward situation when you told them later that you were the landlord and, oh, I'm going to cut your rent now because I feel bad that this girl is sick.
Mhm.
And of course they're going to take that deal, but now they're also in an awkward situation of realizing you are the landlord and you have these strict rules and you were going to turn them into you when you're the person, like it is a little
That's
sticky.
the thing, because if you're living with your landlord, you guys have dinners together even semi-regularly, I would assume, I've never been in this position, but I would assume you feel like you have that much access to your landlord and you guys are friendly, then if you want something changed in your living situation, you might feel like you actually have some agency to bring that up. Obviously, it's going to be their call at the end of the day, but if you're like, hey, can we leave a single dish in the sink, or I don't know, like, you might feel like you have more space to bring that up and actually change something. I just can't get the deception part. I don't like deceptiveness.
Yeah, I think that's where this person's the asshole to me, because they've had dinners with you. They didn't think you were the landlord, so they just thought you were their cool, like, roommate. I guess I shouldn't say cool because you were saying you were going to tell on them about noise stuff. And I don't know. It's just a weird way to live where you're living with somebody and you own the place, but they don't know you own it. So you got to pretend that you're paying rent too.
Like landlord tenant, that's a power structure. And people should be aware when they're in a power structure how to act. And it's a different thing when you're just somebody who is living with someone.
Which is why this girl was having such a hard time finding a roommate, because people don't really want to live with their landlord. It's
And I
just
could see that that's probably a challenge, because I don't think that would be my preferred living situation either, to live with whoever owns the house. But at the same time, I wonder if there is maybe a way for her to not advertise online that she is the landlord, but then once they have their first meeting or like second meeting, before they actually sign the contract, telling.
It seems like she would like get the conversation started with them and then it would come up and then they would ghost her. That's what it sounded like to me. I mean, either way, whenever she brings it up, the people are going to ghost her, because it sounds like she had a lot of rules. She said she was a strict you can't be a strict landlord and also live with your tenants, lady. You gotta, and
if she's the one that's saying that she's strict, then she's probably even downplaying it even more because it's her own explanation. So she probably is even more strict than she's even saying.
That's what I'm saying. You're putting people in a weird spot. When you're the landlord, you're strict and you're living with them. That's like a trifecta for these people.
Yeah.
Like, if
And
they do
a
one thing
deceptive
wrong,
trifecta.
and if they do one thing wrong and they know you're the landlord, they're like, oh my gosh, she's gonna penalize us, because you could charge them for things. You know what I mean? And you're right there. So it's just like walking on eggshells all the time if you live with your landlord, I think. We had rules in me and Miss Kenzie's apartment that we broke all the time. I couldn't imagine living with my landlord.
Exactly. Right.
Whenever he would come around, I'd try to hide anyway. So it's not someone you want to live with normally. But
that's the thing. That's the classic thing when you have a landlord, when you're somebody's tenant, you kind of just try to avoid each other. Just take my money and you be quiet and I be quiet. No, that's the relationship.
And I just try to live in a way where I get my security deposit back, and that's all we can hope.
Then,
I don't know.
then we're all happy.
I'm not for springing it on them when this girl is sick too. So now she's in her time of need and she needs her rent to be lower, but now she found out that she's living with her landlord.
I do think that is one kind of interesting part of this story, though, because if you didn't live with your landlord, you might not have the benefit of somebody having enough empathy for you to reduce your rent and actually allow you to live in a space that's worth more than what you're living in. So I think that part's kind of interesting. This woman at the end of the day did them a favor and she changed her own finances to let these people continue to live there for a certain time. Again, I think that the two things are really separate. Like, this woman was still deceptive. However, she had some empathy and she was able to have that empathy because she's the landlord and she also lived with them. And they wouldn't have been able to take advantage of that in a nice way if that wasn't the case.
I think she did a nice thing. I think that she's hearing all this stuff about her now from the previous tenants. I think she feels slighted. I would too, because she probably thought she did this nice thing. Yes, she lied to them, but she helped them out in their time of need. She probably wasn't expecting them to go around crap talking her.
I know.
So now she's just probably shook. So I do feel bad for her in that sense. She seems like a nice person, and maybe she's just being stigmatized by living with your landlord, but at the same time, she also does sound like she might be a little bit difficult herself, because she seems to have a lot of rules. And I don't know, I feel like there's two sides to the story. I feel like I'm not getting the full story.
I know. I would love to be able to see some of the posts that they were posting about
the tenants
living situation.
So top comment on this from a Diego says, okay, let's look at this differently. There is someone who is happy with the rent cost, happy with the rules, they signed up papers, question mark. and live in without knowing that the roommate is a landlord. But they get by fine for a long time, but then they learn that they were always living with the person who owns the flat and go crazy about it. If you're not legally required to disclose who is the landlord when renting out in your country, then not the asshole. Ask yourself, why would someone be fine with paying that amount of rent and becoming friends with their roommate? But the moment they learn the truth, it's not fine, because they would feel entitled to your assets. And even if they pay below average rent, they would consider you ripping them off and start to guilt trip you into lowering the rent, and would consider that they might be such good friends to you that you might let them live together for free forever and babysit their upcoming babies too and pay for their college.
The top comment. Is it run-on sentence?
This sentence starts at because, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. There's like not even a comma in there. And upcoming babies too, and pay for their colleges. You are such big homeowners. Next time, just say that you are landlord and try not to befriend your roommates too much, or they will want to become your best friends and live for free. I mean, that's a take.
That is a take.
But I can see the point of, if you're gonna be deceitful, don't get close to these people.
Right. And I get what they're saying, that this had all kinds of riskiness for being messy, and you should have known that it was going to be a messy situation. It's hard enough to have separate roles with people. It's good to just, you and I are friends. That's our role. And then we became like podcast co-doers, and so that became a role. It's just, you don't want to have too many roles with people. And when you have a person who's a landlord and a roommate and a friend, it's just too much messiness. There's not enough boundaries going on, and there's deception and dishonesty here, so you can't even really have appropriate boundaries because they can't make informed decisions about those boundaries.
It feels just really like conflict of interest, messy, like maybe should be illegal, or I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
and I don't think she's doing anything wrong or had any bad intentions in this, other than she was trying to get people to live in her house so that she could have this money, which is not an uncommon thing for people to do who have extra rooms and whatever. It's just she went about it in such a weird way that I couldn't see anyone being like, "Oh, okay," and then like wanting to stay.
Yeah, she's got a rep now. She might as well just get a husband or a man or something, or a relationship, or a female, or anybody in there, or a friend that she knows that can rent from her, that knows how she is, and like can follow her rules. Because sometimes some people these days, with rules,
Yeah, rules are meant to be broken to some people, especially when you're like living in a space. You really want to live according to your own rules, even if you're a tenant, and you kind of want to break some of your landlord's rules sometimes. That's just not uncommon at all. It's also not uncommon, though, to have some extra real estate and want to make some money off of it. I think the fact that they're judging her about this whole, oh, you wanted to take our money in some weird way to pay off your debts, like, isn't that what you do when you have an investment in some kind of real estate and you want to make money? That's what everybody does when they've
that
invested.
part of their complaining is weird to me. It's not like y'all were friends and she didn't tell you.
Right. Unless, again, there's always two sides to the story. Maybe this woman has a horrible shopping problem or something. But again, as long as she's paying her bills, it's not really anyone's business.
Yeah, I don't know that part of these people's argument. I get them being upset that she misled them, and they could have been a lot more careful about how they, like when you live with your landlord, I feel like you would live differently.
Yeah.
Or be more cautious. And maybe they've talked crap about the landlord in front of the landlord now at this point. So now they
like, oh, these rules really are completely dumb. How do you even know if I'm being tidy or not?
Yeah, exactly. How would they not, like, and that's, and they might have already been annoyed with this girl anyways, like, oh, she's always telling us she's gonna tell us on the landlord and whatever. They might not have been like always friendly with her. They just might have had dinner with her to keep her at bay. And then,
keep your
and then now they find out this lady's a landlord. There could be so many things going on with them. That's why I want to hear their side, because I feel like they have an interesting story.
I know.
But someone commented yesterday and said, "You're the asshole - everyone sucks here. This really reads like you terrorize them a little. You say you are strict about everything being organized and noise because of damages. That's a straight up lie. Music or a TV or whatever doesn't do any damage. Voices for damage. You wanted the money, but not actually compromise living with people, and you used your power over them. Now you're doing something very kind. But for the question you asked, you're the asshole. I feel like these people might be the people.
They could be. They sound reasonable if it's true.
They sound like they know a little more. So someone else responded to that too, and they said, this is a violation of the tenant's rights, plain and simple. What the fuck is this weirdo doing with the checking? The landlord has to inform the tenant like a specified time before doing an inspection, but this weirdo is violating their privacy. I mean, I will say the whole threatening inspections and all that, that is going above and beyond for me, and that's weird. And how do you expect to perform these inspections? Just walk out and walk back in a costume?
That's the part that I couldn't really grasp this person's whole story, honestly, because yeah, how do you say, what do you email them that you're going to schedule an inspection and tell them to leave so that you can secretly threaten this? And like, I don't get the. So
Yeah, like,
again, I'm really curious to hear the other people's side of the story, to hear how they were informed of these inspections and things like that.
The thing with inspections too is usually you have to be there because your stuff is there. So I wouldn't want
Yeah,
my
they always
landlord
told me
looking
that they
through.
wanted me there because we had like, I've always lived in an apartment with my dog, so they
Yeah.
don't like, they want me there to control my dog, and yeah, if they
You
have
would
to
have
move furniture and
Right. You could have valuables there, and if something went missing, it could be a mess for them. I feel like it's a liability issue if you're not there. So it's like, how are you doing these inspections? How have they never seen you? How did they get their keys?
it
Like,
seemed like the inspections didn't even happen, they were just like a threat, like a
exactly. So what, you're just like constantly threatening because you can't do it. You can't do an inspection. I
right.
don't get how these people like, so everything's been online with their landlord. They've never seen them
Yeah,
ever.
that's the part too. I'm like, I wouldn't sign a contract when I don't know who I'm signing a contract for. But I mean, apartments can be interesting. You can do subleases, you can do, it's just there's all
Right.
kinds of
I mean, I can get if it's like a legit company, you doing it like over
right.
the phone or something like that or online. But
Right.
most apartment places, lease places, you have to go into an office and sign something. Or if you're dealing with somebody one on one, usually you do have to go sign something, get your keys, talk to
Right.
the person. I just feel like that's really strange to not ever see your landlord one time in person.
Well,
Even
I
to
even
just,
got a little confused too with the first sentence of their story. They said something about like having a cheap something, but also having a mortgage. And I'm wondering, if do they own this house outright?
it
And
sounds like they bought the apartment but have a mortgage on it.
so is it like a condo then? Because how do you have you can't have a mortgage is
It
home
must be a
loan.
condo because, well, I think there's some apartments like the fancier, like some, because it sounds like this apartment is set up differently. It says they have a sub suite, so it sounds like they have like a whole section that it could be like two apartments in one. So it sounds more like
But
a
I've
duplex
seen
to
like
me.
homes that they're not single family homes. They're like apartment style homes. But when
Yeah.
you buy that thing, you're purchasing the home and you have a mortgage. But I don't know if this person either did something like that where they bought like a duplex or something and got a mortgage on their own, or if they are actually renters themselves and are just
Well,
renting.
it sounds like too they're in like a city, and I know that's a little bit different in that you can own an apartment in the cities
Right.
depending on what city you're in. And they said they want roommates for protection, so I'm wondering if they're in a city like New York or where it's more
Right, but
likely you
those
could
are like
own.
housing co-ops and stuff at that point too that you
Well, I
own.
don't know what area they're in or what
Right,
kind of apartments they're
right.
in. But it still
It's
sounds weird
weird.
and stuffy to not sign your
Yeah,
own shit. Like, to just not see your landlord at least one time, know what the fuck they look like.
the whole
Well,
thing is weird.
I don't know how long these people were. It sounds like they were living there for a few months. So
At least.
it's a long time to be lying to somebody. But
It is, isn't it? Having dinners with these people.
so OP responded to those two comments and said, just for clarity, for damages, I meant things like a window being left open and it rained, so water damage was a concern. Breaking the front door lock after using the wrong key and it needing replacing. Replacing their toaster because the wires were exposed and I was worried about a potential fire. Their habit of leaving the stove turned on with nothing on it. That is, don't do that, people.
Habit?
That shouldn't be a
A
habit.
habit is like biting your nails.
Is it cold in there all the time? That's the only reason they have the stove on with nothing in it. Like you
Right,
paying for
maybe this
heat?
lady also wouldn't allow the heat to be on.
Yeah, what's the story on that? Noise and stuff wasn't an issue. It was just something I put in the ad to deter party people. Mess only became an issue if it was left there for a few days - a week in communal areas and was getting in the way. That is reasonable. Those are like reasonable, but you still didn't tell me we're a landlord. They do have an edit as well. The edit says they were paying for a single room together, like what someone alone would have been paying. It wasn't doubled because they are two people. I didn't need the extra money. I just wanted to live with people to feel safer at home. What I was doing was legal where I am. I checked beforehand. So, no, I wasn't ridiculously strict. They could have a drink, just not parties in big groups. And I did have good timelines for any inspections far above the minimum requirement. Just for clarity, for damages, I meant things like window being left open and it rained, so water damage was a concern, breaking the front door lock, using the wrong key, and it needing replacing. Whatever was said in that last comment, basically. Replacing their toaster because the wires were exposed. For what? Why are y'all
That's weird.
using toasters with wires exposed?
I have a problem with that one. Why would your roommate replace your toaster for you?
That is weird. It's a weird. She was leaving
and then asked to be reimbursed for it. It's just strange.
It's also weird to be making toast with wires coming out of your toaster.
I'm sorry, but isn't this your house that they're renting a single room in? So isn't this supposed to be your toaster?
This is why I'm saying, like, it sounds more like a duplex almost situation where they have like a common area, but I don't know. They might have their own stuff in the common.
Right.
I need to see the layout. I need the layout of this apartment. They should have included that in the comments or something, like to see what this is like. But they're $10 at Walmart for a Mainstays toaster. They last forever. Just buy one for $10 and call it a day. And if you do decide to buy someone a new toaster, they're not required to pay you back. If you weren't living there as a landlord, you wouldn't know that their toaster and wires.
Yeah, that's what I mean, especially being a roommate. Imagine us living together and you brought your toaster from, that you've always used, and I'm like, I bought a new toaster because this one freaked me out. So if you could just give me $30.
You're like, nah, bitch, I paid $10 for mine. I didn't ask for a new toaster. That's what I'm saying. So then it goes on to say, noise and stuff wasn't the issue. It was something that I put in the ad to deter party people. Mess was only became an issue if it was left there for a few days - a week in the communal areas and was getting in the way. So basically the same comment again, just with an extra paragraph. Girl, or whatever. I understand that you might have checked and it was okay legally, but I just maybe the laws haven't caught up with times or something, because I just don't think that that's like ethical. I should say it's not the most ethical thing to do. It might be legal, but it's just messy. It's messy.
Yeah, and now she's in a mess. I think she just had a little bit of tunnel vision in the beginning and was just kind of thinking from her own side of, I just want this room to be filled. I don't want to live alone. So by any means necessary, essentially, I'm going to get someone to live here. And I don't think she took a minute to think about what it might be like for a tenant to live knowingly with their landlord and then befriend them and then get favors from them. It's just strange.
And if you're going to go that route, you better keep it up the whole time. Like, you can't just like come out and just think,
now. Take it to the grave.
You think you're just going to come out with that and they're going to take the deal because they're in a time of need, but then they're going to sit there and think about all these things.
Right.
Do you think y'all were just going to live there forever happily? Now they want to move out. They're going to move out the first opportunity that they can. They're saving.
Right.
You just helped them expedite the amount of time that they can get out of that apartment. You gave them a good deal. Now they can save and get the hell away from their landlord because they did not know they were living with their landlord. I guess you have to think about it this way. If I'm talking to the poster, how would you feel if you were living with your landlord and you did not
know? That's why I'm like, this person must not have taken one single second to think about what it might be like for the person moving in to possibly find out what's going on. You're just asking for a mess at that point because you have no backup plans. You haven't thought this through. All you've done is deceive, and all that brings is more deception.
And there's a reason people weren't taking your bait to begin with. They don't want to live with their landlord. You don't want to deceive people like that because it just could have created a much bigger mess than even what happened. I think you kind of got off lucky. People could have really came for you. And they might be coming for you. I don't know. But if you can afford to live there on your own, just live there on your own or get some security or something.
Yeah, get some security cameras. Or, I mean, I was going to suggest maybe like an older lady or something might be a good roommate for her. in
Oh,
a knowing
probably.
situation, you could tell her I'm the landlord. They probably wouldn't care so much if they're maybe older as
Yeah.
long as you're not lying. But then again, I don't know how much safer she'd feel with an elderly person, but at least
I
there's
think
another human in the
it
house.
might just be something like that. Like my sister has this thing of like she can't be alone in the house, but if I'm in the house, she's fine. I'm like, bitch, I can't save you. I don't know. Like some people, they just need another body present, at least another witness or something. But you
Right.
know,
Someone to know, like, oh, she hasn't left her room in 4 days. Maybe I should call the police.
and maybe next time you buy an apartment, maybe go for a better area. If you're scared to live there by yourself, I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't
thought.
know. Maybe be in a relationship or something. I don't know. There's so many
Get a
options.
dog and
You
a
don't need to
camera.
yes, get a pet. If you
Yeah.
aren't allergic or whatever, if you can get a pet, get a pet. Like there's something you can do. You don't need to be lying to people. I do think this is I'm gonna say it this time because you know what? We never actually have an asshole. And I do think this person is the asshole in this situation. A little bit, just a little bit. I don't think that they're like a straight up dick, but I do think
Yeah.
that they made
They're
some
not a
mistakes.
flaming asshole. They're just a regular asshole.
But if I have to call someone the asshole, it would be the person who's lying in the situation and not the
Yeah.
person, the people who aren't lying. Because they had a bad experience with you and they're going to talk about it. And that's their experience
Yeah.
with you.
And they're entitled to say that now because you've lied to them. So you really can't defend yourself. Your credibility is already shot. So sorry
Yeah.
about it.
Next time, a nice older lady. Like, there's just so many options
There
that
will
I
be
get.
people you might not get people very, very highly interested, and I know that
Mhm.
that's a bummer because it sounds like you're charging a cheap price and you're being as reasonable as you're willing to be, but you might not get a flow of people that are interested, but somebody will be interested to live there for cheap.
Right.
Maybe even think of it as a benefit that they live with the landlord. So, I mean, just find the right person that you can be honest with. That would be better.
Yeah, because to be real, at the end of the day, that's going to be the best living situation for you, anyways. It might take a little longer to find the
Mhm.
person. I don't know if this was like a speed trip, let's get somebody in here kind of speedy thing, which if you don't need the money, I don't see why it would be unless
Mhm.
you're really
Yeah,
that scared for your
you can't be
safety.
terrified. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
like unless you're that scared for your safety, which if you are, then you need to move. Like
Yeah,
you
you
don't
shouldn't
need
live
that apartment.
alone anyways, just
No.
please.
Stay at your parents. Stay there till
Right.
you're married. Just it's
Yeah.
fine. You don't need to buy a spot. But if you're gonna have roommates, you got to be honest with them. And I feel like it'd just be a safer bet if you're just gonna wait to find the right roommate. But I guess now you're not taking inquiries anyways because of this whole ordeal. So that's a good
True.
move, girl. Just keep to yourself. Let the whole thing blow over, and
Yeah,
you'll
it's
live.
time.
You'll find somebody, a partner, a man, a woman. I don't know what you're into, but you'll find somebody to be with, and you'll just will just be a big laugh. For remember when I tried to rent out my room?
Exactly. Like, definitely. I mean, at least like let a couple of months go by because people will stop talking about it, so you'll be able to put the listing back up soon. But be honest, please
Yeah,
don't do this again. Learn your lesson.
but I'm sorry. To me, this person is gonna have to be labeled the asshole for this story.
I agree.
Especially because I do feel like I'm missing parts of the story too. I feel like these roommates might have some things to say, and I'd like to hear that first before I make a definitive decision about the asshole. But so far,
Yeah.
I'm leaning you're the asshole. But
You know, I have a feeling too that if we heard from these roommates that we'd probably be more definitive about the asshole.
yeah,
I
probably.
don't think it would give the landlord any more grace. I think it would just get worse.
I'm sorry. I do think that there's hope for you. I don't think you're like an asshole all around. I just think that in this situation, you had some better options than what you took. So.
Several.
Yeah, but actually, they're voted not the asshole so far. But it has only been a day. But yeah, so far not the asshole. But I still kind of think he might be a little bit,
Mhm.
just a
I know.
smidge. Just a smidge.
I did kind of like I forgot to say this, but the top comment that I did not like that comment. But I did like the point that they made about you've already been living with this person for the last however many months and it was fine. Again, I don't care for deceptiveness or lying at all. So you weren't able to make an informed decision about living with that person. But it's not like it's inherently terrible or dangerous to live with your landlord. It's just
Mhm.
not good that you lied. So I still feel that this person is a mild asshole.
Mhm. That's what I'm gonna give it. So we're voting the asshole on this one, even though we're different from Reddit this time. We usually kind of are different from Reddit a lot of the time.
Yeah,
We're
the
usually
last couple ones we've been off. So
yeah, like usually we'd be saying not the asshole and they are the asshole. We're usually not the asshole people. But you know what? This person did make a lot of missteps, and I think that they could have done a lot of different decisions, and that could
I
make them the
agree.
asshole. So
Yeah, what do you guys think, Chick Chat? I mean, I'm interested because we have differing opinions than it seems like what's out there so far. So I'm hoping that we get some good comments and varying ideas and opinions about what's going on here. Obviously, we don't have all the information. Maybe some wonderful Chick Chatter out there could find us the posts.
yeah, find us this place because we need to see this floor plan. We're very confused
Yeah.
on this setup because that could really answer a lot of questions. It could even determine the asshole status.
You should also post this on the comments when we post it because maybe they'll answer some of our questions.
Maybe because I'm not trying to say like this person's a bad person. I just think that with
Yeah,
just
we
think
just
that
voted this
they
much of an asshole.
and I
Yeah,
think that
just we don't like liars. And I know that you weren't lying, your intentions were not bad, but just be honest.
it causes more problems than it's worth to lie, especially situations like this that are just going to come out anyways. You can be an incognito forever. What if these people had like a long term? What if they just kept leasing like and
Right.
stay there and stay like you would have? I don't know. This would have had to come out at some point. Whatever.
So I'm curious to hear what you all have to say. So let us know how you feel in the comments, and we will catch you on the next one.
All right. Bye, Chick Chat. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Reduce, reuse, recycle,
Comment.
Rihanna.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.